The amount of work it takes to get the right people together to unload the truth to the public is astounding. Can you imagine working on all of this exposure of the politicians for decades and making sure that it is all pulled off in a way that defeats the enemy and makes the public basically wakes them up around the entire earth? Stolen election, fraud and abuse of our freedoms, infiltration of our nation, and so much more will be covered today, showing how they are unleashing this all to the public is absolutely brilliant, unleashing the truth. 513,000 followers on Rumble. That's where we're at. We hope to continue to grow. It's creeping along. We're getting there, but we appreciate your support and sharing this channel. Also, the leaderboard, we're number 2 again yesterday with our video. And that's hitting that like button and putting comments below. I wanted to show you this.
Our new And We Know bracelets connect you with scripture with just the tap of your phone. Simply tap your phone to the bracelet, click the pop-up, and there's a new verse every time. If you're feeling anxious, need to pray, or just want to see what God has for you in the moment, you can tap for a verse and pray over that situation. Now available online.
At andweknow.com. And we really appreciate all the work that's going on there with our team and providing this resource for all of you. Thank you for grabbing that. Let's get to President Trump.
I wanted to ask you, Mr. President, about Iran and on Iran. You came to the conclusion that you couldn't negotiate with the IRGC. Does that mean that you might wipe them out like you did ISIS?
Yeah, it does. We will see what's happening. We received a call just as I was coming here. Yes. They want to meet. They always want to meet. But, this should have been done by other presidents for many years, for 47 years, but really a lot longer than that, and it wasn't. And I never understood why, but now I do. Because if you're not going to do it the way I'm doing it, you're never going to make a deal with them. They were very difficult. They're good negotiators. They were tapping everybody along for 47 years. Then Obama came in and he just offered them, a fortune of money. He paid them off. $1.7 billion in green cash and hundreds of billions of dollars. And that really set everyone else back because they started wanting to make nuclear weapons. And then we hit them just about a year ago, with the B-2 bombers, and that ended that. So we got a little bit lucky. Our timing was a little bit lucky.
Yes.
Remember, Iran saw this here on social media, and it's just a reminder of what they've had to deal with when in Iran.
I want to ask the students screaming "Death to America." Do you have any idea what happens when American values die? Because I do. My family fled a country where freedom died. You don't know what you have until it's gone. You think America is oppressive because you have never experienced real oppression. You think silence is violence because you've never been silenced. You think words are dangerous because you have never watched a government drag someone away for speaking them. You think capitalism is evil because you have never stood in a bread line. You think borders are immoral because you have never had to flee across one. And you think revolution is romantic because you have never had a revolution take everything from you. I have. And that's why I refuse to be quiet.
Outstanding. So this is more than just what we're talking about with the deep state being taken out, more than just London. It's a whole nation of people who were basically taken hostage for 47 years. And when President Trump mentioned Obama sending them cash, Obama is part of that whole thing. He's not even an American citizen. He came into our country, infiltrated, and he was used as a puppet to further destroy us and to infiltrate our country with the Muslims. And boy, he had all the Christians fooled, just about all of them. All right, President Trump made an announcement at the Pennsylvania Defense and Innovation Summit.
But we're here today to celebrate a colossal victory for this Commonwealth and for the entire nation. This afternoon, we're announcing nearly $10 billion of new investments in our defense industrial base right here in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And these investments will create more than 4,000 jobs. Pennsylvania workers will build the ships, submarines, trucks, weapons, and industries that will ensure America remains the strongest and most powerful nation in the history of the world.
History of the world. Most strong and powerful. And we can remain strong and powerful if we finally pass the SAVE Act and finally get rid of these elections being rigged the way they are. Now, interesting question popped up about the elections to J.D. Vance. It was posed to him by a reporter, basically stating that even if they get this thing passed, it won't be in time for 2026. Listen to this.
You mentioned that the administration's top priority right now is passing the Save America Act. Even if it were passed tomorrow, there's not enough time for it to be implemented before voting starts for the November midterm elections. That being said, will the administration support the results of the midterm elections come November, regardless of what they look like?
Well, look, of course, we're going to support the results of the midterm elections. We think we're going to win, but ultimately that's up to the American people. But we also think we have to do everything that we can to discourage cheating. Because you will hear Democrats sometimes say, and I love this line, I can't help but laugh at it, cheating isn't that frequent in American elections. Any frequency at all is a problem. A single ballot cast illegally in an American election is, in fact, the theft of the ballot from another American citizen, from an American citizen who deserves to be able to vote. So you're right. You know, the elections, in some ways, the process is already getting started for 2026, but you don't pass a piece of legislation because you think you're going to immediately benefit from it. You pass a piece of legislation because you think the American people are going to benefit from it over the long haul. We have to do it. Save America is not mainly about 2026, to your question. It's actually about saving America's elections well into the future.
Last question. Tomorrow, the president's going to give this big speech on the elections. A lot of Republicans here want him to focus on the 2026 midterms and not to relitigate his claims about the 2020 elections. Would you encourage him to steer clear of those unfounded claims that he is actually the true victor of the 2020 elections?
I love these questions, the unfounded claims. You're basically assuming an answer in the very question that you ask. Manu, what I'd say is we can do a lot. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We're doing so many things. We got the one big beautiful bill passed that cut taxes on Social Security, cut taxes on tips, cut taxes on overtime, delivered thousands of additional dollars into the pockets of the average American family. We're very proud of that. It's one of the things that we talked about in there was we need to talk about it more. We need to tell the American people all the amazing benefits that are in those working families' tax cuts. We also have a lot of other things going on in the country. The president's going to talk about a number of things tomorrow night. I'm obviously not going to get ahead of his remarks, but we can talk about a number of the American people's problems. We can solve a number of the American people's problems. That's exactly what we're going to work with our House colleagues and our Senate friends to do.
So, J.D. Vance has been on the speaking for the American people, and he hit up the giant show, millions of listeners, Joe Rogan show. Now, I don't agree with everything that Joe Rogan talks about. I don't agree with his logo that he has out there, and I don't believe he's had a lot of people on in the past few years where they allowed him to talk about the Bible, so that was good. But anyway, J.D. Vance was on there recently, and he dismantled the Democrat myth that all 2020 election fraud cases were disproven in court.
If you remember in the aftermath of the 2020 election, where there was all this debate about was the election stolen, was the election not stolen, all the litigation that moved through, there was a case in Pennsylvania that didn't get very much attention. And I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but basically it was a guy in a rural area of Pennsylvania saying, you're undercounting my vote because we didn't have the opportunity to do the mail-in ballots like they did in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And the argument was a kind of disparate impact, right? The cities ginned up all the mail-in balloting and the ballot harvesting. You didn't do that in the country, and that hurt sort of our representation. So they take this case to the Pennsylvania courts. And what's crazy is the Pennsylvania courts basically say, you're making kind of a good point here. The ballot harvesting did affect Republicans in a more negative way. It did mean that certain people in the more rural parts of the state were underrepresented. But then the court conclusion was, this is not a problem a court can fix. That's a political problem. Change your, local elections leaders, change your laws. That's not a remedy that the court has to fix. And so everybody saw that case and they're like, oh, the judge rules against Donald Trump, rules against Republicans for saying that there was something illegitimate. But no, actually, the judge kind of said, there is something kind of fishy here. We're just the wrong venue to fix it.
Yeah, good information. Great to tell a story to basically have us all relate to what he's trying to get at. Now, a couple of other clips that I saw from this show are pretty valuable, and a lot of it was coming from Joe Rogan himself, basically talking about how they cheat and don't want a voter ID. I'm going to show you that in a moment.
Friends, let me ask you something. How long have you been trying to get healthy without really knowing what's going on inside your body? You've seen doctors, you followed advice, you may have tried diets or supplements that sounded right, but nothing really changed because you were still guessing. That's why my family and I work with Dr. Kelly Shockley. She doesn't guess, she tests.
One of the biggest ones that I didn't even know I had needed a win, and that is that I have stopped a dependency on melatonin after 10 years use, and in order to sleep. A lot of good results, but to stop that 10-year addiction has been just life-changing.
Dr. Kelly stepped outside the traditional medical system so she could do what the system simply doesn't allow. Look deeper, ask better questions, and get real answers.
And with complete and proper testing, and then actually interpreting those results differently than what the rest of the medical world does, we can find the why behind your diagnosis or the symptoms you're experiencing now that you didn't used to.
Through advanced testing, she uncovers what's actually driving symptoms: toxins, nutrient deficiencies, inflammation, stress patterns, the things you simply can't see without data. When we went through testing, she identified issues I had never even mentioned, things I didn't know were connected. That's when I realized how much I was guessing. This isn't cookie cutter care. It's not trend chasing. It's stewardship. God designed your body to heal, but you have to know what it needs. Testing lights the way. Go to corehealthadvantage.com/AUK, learn how testing works, and decide if it's time to finally get real answers. It's in the description box below, including a link to our latest interview. You'll love it. Click on that link today.
I think they cheat. And I think they've been doing it forever. And I don't think there's any other reason why you would have no voter ID. And they try to say, oh, it's racist to have voter ID. Like, what are you talking about? Do you think other races are incapable of going to the DMV? That's insane.
Yeah,
that's racist.
It's actually super racist.
That's really racist.
Right, the implication of their argument is literally like blacks and Hispanics cannot go to the DMV to get an ID. By the way, if you look at the polling, Black Americans are as pro-voter ID. Even though most Black Americans vote Democrat, they're still pro-voter ID as much as white Americans is.
Most Americans are voter. So they want voter ID, except for operatives.
Yep, calling them out. They cheat. For people that don't pay attention to politics, they're not watching the news. They're just driving around like, I listen to Joe Rogan show every day. You know, younger folks too. They're getting a lot, and now they're going to talk about Los Angeles.
First of all, what happened with the last election in Los Angeles, just the primary, I think was crazy. So super sus.
Yes,
and here's why it's super sus. Not just super sus that Spencer Pratt, who was in second place, got overtaken by Nithya Raman in the mail-in ballots, but that the mail-in ballots also passed a tax hike. The people voted to pay more taxes.
Yep.
In a state where you have the highest
taxes. That's right.
They're like, we don't pay enough. That is insane. Then when you have direct evidence that they were recruiting homeless people.
That's right.
And they were getting homeless people and giving them cigarettes and cash. There's evidence of this. To use their address and mail-in ballots.
Yeah, I would be the Californian Joe who wakes up in the morning and says, you know what? I'm going to go and vote for higher taxes.
I don't
pay enough taxes.
I feel like we could fix this if I just pay 5%
more taxes. The crazy thing about it too is it's that, okay, so after the initial ballots all came in, it was Karen Bass was number one, Spencer Pratt was right behind her, and then number three, whatever this woman's name is, Nithya Raman. Okay, so you would expect the mail-in ballots to be more or less like the original ballots in terms of 1, 2, and 3. I'm not saying Spencer Pratt's going to win the mail-in ballot, but it just so happened that the third place person in relative terms did a lot better than the first and second place person.
Disproportionately better.
Such that the Republican was actually kicked out of the race so that there's not actually a real election in California. That to me was the crazy part. It's like you were designing the vote share in order to kick Pratt out and put the third person into second place. That to me is like very, very bizarre. Because what is the theory of the mail-in vote that is somehow like so much more pro Nithya relative to Karen Bass?
Makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
Makes no sense. Why would it be?
Yep. And so that Nithya Raman personality. Spencer Pratt basically pointed this out. Notice how Nitya Raman has just completely disappeared after they blocked us out of the general election. She's not campaigning at all, like a pickpocket disappearing into the crowd, just a ghost. I told you her campaign was a scam, colluding with Bass from the start. Paul says to anyone paying close attention, it's clear what really played out in Los Angeles. The field narrowed in a way that left voters with far fewer meaningful options heading into the general, and sudden drop in visibility from certain candidates only reinforced that sense of a preset path. When the contest doesn't stay competitive and issue-driven all the way through, it doesn't serve the city or its residents well, no matter who ultimately wins. LA deserves stronger accountability, real choice on the challenges. So, I wonder what that would look like to you. And so, Spencer, we know, won that. And it appears that they brought her in, this Nitya Raman, brought her in so that she would basically steal a lot of the votes of Bass and then be able to be used to be propelled, because they would propel her up above Spencer Pratt. If it had been, she didn't show up, imagine it would just be Spencer Pratt, and he would have pulled in probably a majority of the votes. Maybe. And either way, Nitya Raman would have been nowhere around to steal it the way that they did. And so a lot of insight on this and a lot of the fraud that happens there.
We also found next ballot petitioners asking homes to sign in other people's names.
Talk about California.
We recorded over the shoulder one petitioner who took out his phone to access an online database to pull voter rolls and addresses. Quote, "I have an Idaho address," said the voter. The petitioner says, "I'm going to give you an address to write. Your name is Robert." Another says, "I'm giving you a new name." So we visited the residence of those people who were disenfranchised. One of the names was Vicky Walker. The homeowner at that address said for 9 years he received election mail in the name of this Vicky Walker. In fact, he told me he'd received so many ballots in the name of Vicky Walker, he named his cat Vicky Walker. We returned to ask for comment from the petitioner who was offering drugs in exchange for signatures. The same individual who had threatened us earlier, he grabbed the petitions and hid them in his car.
Isn't that convenient? So they had all this going on with the election information that's about to probably be put out tonight. Well, it's very interesting that they are having this talk about fraud and more. I'm going to get to Nick Shirley's portion in a moment. First, wanted to share with you the Department of War CTO put this out. Failure is not an option. No distractions. Stay locked in. Patriot. And you, like you saw in the thumbnail, you have stay locked in Patriots from the Department of War CTO. Interesting choice of words there. Posted at 2:02 p.m. or 14:02 military time. Of course, Ultra Magadine was on this, and he shared all of these things to remember. 14:02 refers back to post 1400, which says, what is the common theme when bad news is about to break against them, against the enemy? Stay vigilant. And refers back to 1401 also. God bless the United States of America, D5. Cube responds with, what had to happen first? Think logically. Think Department of Justice and FBI. Think cleaning. Number 64. Puzzle coming together? We have reached our cruising altitude of 40,000 feet long ago. As we prepare to land, please fasten your seatbelt and make sure your seat back is and folding trays are in full upright position. Continuing as far as the timestamp of 2:02, and you take out the 0, that's 22. You have Q22, who controls the National Guard? Why was the National Guard recently activated in select cities within the United States? Can the National Guard work in coordination with the Marines? Do conditions need to be satisfied to authorize? What former president used the military to save the republic, and what occurred exactly? Remember, Q's always communicating with us in this way to think about these things and answer those questions. And, of course, the biggest drop to ever be provided on poll. So here's the comm. Failure is not an option. No distractions. Stay locked in, Patriot. The puzzle's coming together, and we have reached our cruising altitude of 40,000 feet. As we prepare to land, please fasten your seatbelt. Make sure your seat back and folding trays are in the full upright position. Be prepared for the National Guard and the Marines to be deployed throughout the country, as the masses tend to panic in such situations. No war, no civil unrest, clean and swift. With President Trump about to make a speech Thursday night in which he is expected to talk about the 2020 elections and the rigged elections in the past, a lot of people are expecting him to sign national security emergency on election integrity, which in turn would cause the deep state to pull out all the stops and create havoc to stop him. This would result in National Guard and Marines being deployed throughout the country to control the riots, so there would be no war, civil unrest, and it would be clean and swift. It will all make sense if it goes down this way. So, moving forward, remember we're talking about all types of other things going on, fraud and more. Well, we had the Democrat Senator John Ossoff. Thought he had a perfect trap for the Department of National Intelligence nominee, Jay Clayton. Remember, Tulsi Gabbard's gone. It has to be replaced. But Clayton saw the political theater, and he did not take the bait.
Who won the 2020 election?
I'm not going to do this with you.
This is a job interview. We've established that you have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee. Yes, you do have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee?
Yes.
Who won the 2020 election?
Like I said, I'm not going to get into that with you.
But you do have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee.
Is anything that I just said not honest or forthright?
Yes, you're not being honest or forthright. Who won the 2020 election?
I think I've answered the question. We can keep doing this.
Well, we're going to keep doing it because you're not being honest and forthright.
I'm not going to engage in the theater.
It's a simple question, Mr. Clayton.
And I've answered.
Who won the 2020 presidential election?
I've answered it.
You're here asking for the support of senators to lead America's intelligence community. We've established that you have an obligation to be honest and forthright with this committee and with the American public, but you refuse to answer a simple matter of fact about the 2020 election. Is that right?
No, that's not right.
Then answer the question. Who won the 2020 election?
I have answered the question.
Answer it. What is your answer?
I've given you my answer.
What is your answer? You refuse to answer a basic question about who won a presidential election, but you asked to lead America's intelligence community? Isn't it humiliating to be unable to answer this question, to have to indulge the president's delusions? We know, you know, everybody in this room knows the truthful answer to that question. Why can you not give it?
I think I gave you the answer.
Yep, we all know the truth. It was stolen. And so this Ossoff guy is probably another one of those that was snuck in with fake ballots and more, so he could sit there, pretend that he's got all this power over Jay Clayton. Jay Clayton's not taking it. Loved watching this. And then, of course, who's in panic mode? Well, Ossoff talks to the news agencies out there, and he's really feeling it.
If they declare your election ineligible, what can you actually do about that to prevent some sort of lack of faith in the system to the voters of Georgia?
Again, just consider for a moment that we understand the president may be threatening to declare sitting United States senators illegitimate.
Oh, is that right? So if the election was not real, you're illegitimate. And you kind of caught on to that, huh? You put the pieces together there, Ossoff. Way to go.
If that is the course of action he pursues, he is calling Georgia voters illegitimate.
Nope, he's calling you illegitimate. Not the voters. Nice try. Nice to try to bait the people of Georgia that voted for you. See what they's doing. He's going against us.
From the very moment Georgia voters rejected him in
They didn't reject him. Ballots were brought in. They stopped the election. What was around 9-10 p.m. And then we watched them basically slide the ballots through over and over again on video. And then we found out more and more that when they realized they had to shut the election down, they brought in all the fake ballots to make sure they got him over the top of Biden. And this guy knows it.
2020. He's been on the warpath because he was humiliated by the rebuke that Georgians dealt him. And he was humiliated and furious in particular.
Now, these guys are good at lying, aren't they? Man, they went to like school of liars. You know who leads that school? Oh, it's a guy named Satan, the father of lies. He sits over that school, and these guys attend that school, and they get everything that they need to ensure that they tell the sheep out there, listen to me. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain who's telling you the truth. that were illegitimate. Illegitimate. I'm going to get into more of what is interesting about these Democrats. One of them is when Nick Shirley showed up to basically expose Tim Walz, and O'Keefe showed up to expose the Democrats and their lies. They didn't bother to show up. They didn't. We're going to show you all of this in a moment. First, I need a cup of coffee from Mike.
A wise man once said, when things just don't add up, follow the money. You know, it's interesting. Andrew Jackson was a famous war general in the War of 1812. He became president. He was so loved by the people, they put him on a $20 bill. But if you listen to academia today, he is being painted as an evil tyrant for his handling of the Indians, and whether or not he did everything right or wrong with that situation. Why is it now, after all these years, suddenly popular to paint him as an evil tyrant? Well, maybe if we look at it from the money angle, we might have another perspective. See, Andrew Jackson is the last president in the United States history to get the United States completely debt-free. We haven't been debt-free since that. He also abolished the central bank of his day, their equivalent of our Federal Reserve, which, by the way, is neither federal nor do they have a reserve, but that's another day. So why is it now so popular in academia to assassinate his character? You know, after 200 years, anybody could be a pretty darn good Monday morning quarterback, but none of us were there to experience what he experienced, what the country was experiencing. Could it be that maybe the same people who hated him back then are the same people that hate him now? The people that hold the purse strings. So follow the money trail. Sometimes it'll get you a little closer to the truth. Welcome to the Great Awakening.
Oh, what a great cup of coffee there, Hunter's Blend Coffee. Thank you, Mike, for bringing that to us. You know, they started with the simple belief what you drink should reflect what you stand for. They buy the top 6% of specialty coffee beans, roast with precision in small batches, and ship locally roasted coffee fresh to your door. They support organizations and causes that are near and dear to the hearts of many freedom-loving Americans: pro-life, youth shooting, sports, veterans, hunting and conservation, patriot, and anti-sex trafficking. Click on that link below this video. Get your coffee today.
Today, I'm making one more important announcement. My administration will soon take historic action to get illegal alien truck drivers who are just killing a lot of people. They can't read signs. Many of them are on drugs or alcohol, and they shouldn't be driving these things. And they came in totally illegally, and we don't want them, but they are driving all over American roadways, and we're going to replace them with proud American veterans who are going to take our veterans, we're going to teach them a lot about driving trucks, and in many cases they know. We're going to say any American who's driven a heavy truck for our military will automatically be eligible for a commercial driver's license. So we're going to get them taken care of.
It's about time. Looking forward to seeing that happen. You know, the White House put President Trump's leadership in defense innovation is delivering real results for America and its industrial base, the most lethal fighting force on the planet, ushering in the era of defense innovation. President Trump equipping U.S. forces to deter global threats, protect sovereignty in the homeland, and keep America the world's most advanced military. That is from the White House. In doing this, of course, he's got help from other sources there where Honorable Todd Blanche is looking to become Attorney General.
When a family can send their kids to school, walk their neighborhood after dark, and build a life without fear, every promise of the American dream is within reach. When they cannot, none of it is. That's my job, securing safety for every American. I'm pleased to testify again today to tell everybody here that we are doing just that. We are keeping America safe. Since President Trump took office, it's been said a few times this morning already, but it bears repeating,
Murders are down roughly 20% nationwide. We have the lowest murder rate since 1900. Violent crime arrests are up nearly 114%. We've taken almost 5,000 child predators and human traffickers off the streets. And the Department of Justice has filed nearly 100,000 indictments and informations since January 20th, 2025. Additionally, in just the last 4 weeks, in just the last month, we've paid $96 million in claims through the Public Safety Officers Benefits Program to eligible surviving families of fallen public safety officers, even while fewer law enforcement officers were killed in the line of duty than the prior years. And obviously, these are not just numbers. Each one is a family that still has its son or daughter and an officer who came home for dinner. If you look at Washington and Memphis as examples, where we have worked with federal, state, and local partners, pulling thousands of criminals off the streets in those two cities. Homicides in D.C. are down about 60%, and overall crime in Memphis declined by more than 40%. We've seized thousands of illegal guns, brought more than 150 missing children home in those two cities, and cleaned up parks and spaces family once avoided, so you can take your kids and loved ones there once again.
Yeah, looking forward to having him on board. And this is playing out for all to see. Here's Mr. Schmidt.
I heard one of my colleagues say that this is the most troubled Department of Justice in history. I happen to live through the previous administration where you had a Department of Justice completely weaponized against political opponents. They tried to throw their chief political opponent in jail, ruin his family's lives. You were his lawyer to see some of that, and I was with you in a courtroom in New York to witness that defense in one of those cases. Were aimed against Catholics in this country who happen to attend a traditional Catholic Latin Mass, went after parents under the Patriot Act for showing up to school board meetings to object to critical race theory or the masking of their kids. We lived through Jack Smith, and the chairman has just revealed new revelations, of course, that he was reading text messages. By the way, Jack Smith testified under oath he didn't do that. He testified that they just had the phone logs. We know that's not true now. Jack Smith should be subject to prosecution for lying to Congress. So this weaponization, let's draw a distinction. When you go after your political opponents, that is a weaponization. When you hold people accountable who weaponize the justice system, that's not the same thing.
It's like they have to be reminded, the kindergartners, over and over again, how this whole system has worked for the Democrats when they're in power, and then how it works when we get it back. Nick Shirley was up, and he shared his issues when it comes to all the fraud they're catching.
Governor Tim Walz labeled my work as white supremacy and called me a far-right delusional conspiracy theorist. Meanwhile, he dropped out of re-election, and he even said he has ended his political career. Now, the highest government-funded daycare in Minnesota has pleaded guilty to daycare fraud, and the largest autism bust in American history has been exposed. Where is Tim Walz in the media now? It just so happens that over 80% of the fraud committed in Minnesota is by the Somali population.
And so Nick Shirley was asked a question about the Stop Nick Shirley Act in California.
You mentioned the Stop Nick Shirley Act. What is that? I mean, can you describe that in greater detail?
Yeah, so that's a bill that's been created by Mia Bonta, the wife of the Attorney General of California. And the official title is AB 2624, and it's to make it essentially illegal to expose and to film outside of immigration support service providers. That means any entity that provides services to illegal migrants, whether that be healthcare or legal fees. If I were to go out and film a video in front of one of these locations, perhaps an NGO like Churla that's received over $80 million from the government, and they give me a piece of paper and they say, hey, you cannot publish that video. If that bill passes, it'll be illegal for me to.
So it really ought to be renamed the Protect Medicaid Fraudster Act.
That's right. Yep. Protect the Fraudsters Act. That's how it should be labeled. You know, James O'Keefe continued with this.
So the question before this committee is not whether the fraud exists or whether
Remember, the committee he's talking to is just Republicans. The Democrats didn't show up for this. They don't want to be exposed.
it's happening. Oftentimes in politics, y'all debate the facts. The facts are what they are. The question is why the incentives allow it to flourish. There is money in fraud, but there's no money in exposing the fraud. And when laws are ignored without consequences, fraud becomes the incentive. Fraud becomes the model of life. Tony Moore, one of the coordinators for the ballot petitions, told us if there's no consequences, it doesn't matter. And that's the point. I don't have subpoena power. Us journalists don't have the power to do anything but expose. They campaign in this building about freedom and protecting democracy and preventing disenfranchisement and how nobody is above the law. But if those principles are not enforced, when they're violated in broad daylight, they're not principles at all. They're slogans. And without accountability, our notion of freedom is just an illusion. Thank you.
Yeah, outstanding. So they had a chance to give their information out, get it on the record. And if you guys didn't know, they had other folks they were trying to bring in. There's one by the name of Dr. Schwartz. Erica Schwartz, President Trump's nominee for CDC director. She actually started to outline her impressive record of service. Now, I'm going to show you this in a minute. I'm going to push play. But first, I thought I'd want to hear one of the questions from Senator Baldwin to her and her answer.
Dr. Schwartz, do you believe that mRNA vaccines, including the COVID-19 vaccine, are safe and effective?
Senator, thank you for meeting with me earlier. I do appreciate that. I will say for the record, you do have the most beautiful office in the Senate. That being said, I do believe that mRNA...
You're all welcome over afterwards, yeah.
I do believe that mRNA technology is safe and effective.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
mRNA, safe and effective. Now, you were like, well, why'd you show that first before you show all of the things that she's basically saying that she can do? Well, I don't want you to get fooled, and I don't at the same time want to be correct here in saying sometimes I think they're told answer these questions a certain way, maybe, so that they can get in, and then when they do get in, then of course she can actually get some training under RFK Jr., who will basically remind her or teach her and show her that she is wrong. Absolutely wrong. So that's my hope. We'll see how this plays out. I'm going to show you a little bit later some folks who were exposed to people who got these jabs and what happened to them right away, in case you guys need a reminder. I know some of you probably don't. Well, I want to show you that in a moment. First, let's let Dr. Schwartz explain, let's show you why President Trump picked her.
The most important thing to know about me is that I come from a God-fearing military family. My father and my older sister were in the Navy. My older brother was in the Marines, and my younger brother was in the Army. And I had the privilege of serving both in the Navy and with the Coast Guard. For my family, service was not a job. It was a calling, it was a responsibility, and it was an act of faith. My academic career included a biomedical engineering degree and a medical doctorate from Brown University, a Master of Public Health in epidemiology, and a law degree. After medical school, I served as a Navy occupational medicine physician and clinical epidemiologist, focused on protecting service members from hazardous exposures while learning public health from a mission-first operational perspective.
Service members. Interesting that she would say she wants to protect service members, because the information that we're gathering on her, and that would be from different sources, is that she mandated almost every major vaccine on our military, forcing smallpox, anthrax, and flu shots
I do believe that mRNA...
You're all
into U.S. forces with threats and discipline for those who refused. Let's hope that that's incorrect information, but that's what we're catching from many out there sharing this.
I later transferred to the United States Public Health Service and was detailed to the Coast Guard, where I focused on force health protection for responders to major national and global crises, including Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, the 2010 Haiti earthquake, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill disaster, and the West Africa Ebola outbreak.
Now, let me show you something here real quick. Nicholas Holscher, MPH, epidemiologist and administrator at the McCullough Foundation, okay, said Trump's pick, Erica Schwartz, would be a disaster. Schwartz led nationwide COVID-19 vaccine deployment and her long track record of directly issuing rights-crushing civilian and military vaccine mandates, including mandating injection of smallpox, anthrax, and flu vaccines in U.S. forces, disciplining those that refuse. So this agency does not need another cheerleader for industry. It needs a regulator over industry. So her prior promotion, let alone mandates of nearly a dozen different vaccines, leave little hope she will objectively oversee CDC's vaccine program, which has between 1986 and 2026 gone from 3 injections to 29 injections, including in utero by an infant's first birthday, while chronic childhood diseases has gone from under 10% to over 40% of children, most related to immune system deregulation. He puts all these links. So if you want to follow him, he's at Aaron, AARONSIRISG, giving this information, and Aaron Siri SG, all this information just to let us know. She's personally wrote and signed the direct orders making vaccines mandatory for Coast Guard troops. And that's from Nicholas Holscher, MPH, letting us know about that. So let's hope if she does get in that RFK Jr. will sit her down, put her through some remedial training, and really wake her up. It's not good.
In each of these moments, the men and women of the Coast Guard counted on me to get it right. There was no margin for error. I eventually served as the Coast Guard's chief medical officer at the rank of 2-star admiral, where I was responsible for the Coast Guard's healthcare system, their safety system, and their work-life program. I was later asked to serve as the United States Deputy Surgeon General.
All right. So just want to make sure to show you that, and let's get into, for those that need a reminder, those that probably didn't know about this, that might be new, some things that happened with those jabs.
What about vaccine injury, the ones that actually took the shots? What did you see there?
Massive. I didn't know it was possible for a human to die so horrifically and so quickly before they rolled out the mRNA injections. It was insane. I've never seen anything like that. The worst of them were the ones, they called it sepsis, but it was like your medicine, instant Fauci. Multi-organ failure. Like within hours, patients would die of liver, lung, kidney, all at once failure, respiratory failure. It was like some of the records, the emergency crew that found them, it's like their body tried to reject everything, and some of these cases, like their family would be there 30 minutes before, and then within an hour they're dead. And then there were patients coming in with seizures like I've never seen before. We couldn't control some of them. Days patients would be seizing, and no medications would stop it, and eventually they kind of had to be put down. They called it encephalitis or encephalopathy, and then later on they even the coding information organization AHIMA admitted COVID-19 associated encephalitis. There were blood clots, strokes. The clots were insane. Never seen clots like that before. Even the interventional radiologists that were going in with, they have angiopathies and, different scopes where they can do like heart interventions and put stents in like a carotid artery if you have a stroke going to your brain. Normally it's rare to have more than one stent go in. And they were documenting, multiple locations all at once. They had heart attack cases that were like that, where they needed massive amounts of stents that they never needed before. There were people in their 20s that had been hiking that were totally healthy, had been running marathons, that suddenly needed a leg amputated because they had a massive blood clot going from their hip all the way down to their leg, and it couldn't be saved. So that happened. There were some cases of overnight spinal gangrene, which I've never seen before. And you can't amputate, the spine when it goes gangrenous. Normally they cut out tissue that's dying like that, so it prevents further infection. And they didn't know what to do. The only thing they could do was, basically replace that part of your spine with an implant. That's the best they could do.
She goes on and on with more information. In case you guys need this, just a reminder, in 1892 poster, "Do not vaccinate. Vaccination was a snake." And it shows a mom with her child running away. Ongoing problem for a long time. We've gotten to this in so many details, of course, during that whole COVID year. While this is playing out, U.S. Army said locked and loaded with a 24-second video. Brian Cates, never underestimate how far someone will go to avoid a firing squad. It can be impressive. I don't mean walking away scot-free. I mean they get offered a deal, flip and work for us, or we'll shoot you and replace you with an actor. That means drop number 24 on the keyboard is where he's showing any person making statements they will not be seeking re-election was put in submission. For the betterment of the country, not all will be prosecuted and all will do as told. You will see more of this occur, not normal yet disregarded, and even on the Democrat side, the D side. That was given to us November 1st, 2017.
President and total boss of Boeing is Kelly Ortberg, who's a terrific guy. I think he just gave me the award for being the salesman he started of the year. I said, that's not the year. Then he said, what about the decade? Nope, much more than that. So it's the salesman in the history of Boeing. I have sold more Boeing planes, over 1,000, and nobody comes close. You know what I got for that? Nothing. I get nothing. Now, if I was in the private sector, I'd say I want a piece of the company for that, right? But
yeah. So he still has a sense of humor with all the suffering that's going on, the heaviness that he has to carry as being the leader of the free world and more. He comes out and he's able to still have people laughing despite the ongoing battle that's playing out with infiltration in our own country and more. Now, all the good news has been coming out for money and more precious metals skyrocket in August. That's the projection. Dr. Kirk Elliott gave us that on his show from last Saturday. We hope you guys check that out. We'll have another interview coming up this weekend. We hope that you continue to learn and grow in this, and you can reach out to him at amweknow.com/gold. It's in the description box below, and get your IRA switched over to precious metals before that skyrocket hits. Now, Rubber Duck put this out when it talked about money in our country. Listen, here's an articulated and easy to understand synopsis of what happened to our republic in 1871. We are witnessing the undoing of this.
In 1871, the banks incorporated the United States and called the United States a corporation. And when they created the District of Columbia, what they did was they put that corporation in the District of Columbia. And they said that the members of Congress were actually managers of that corporation. And they said the President of the United States was actually the president of that corporation. So we're not living in the country that we think we're living in. And what I've actually done is I have said that we are under something called state capture. And I have said that there is an interregnum. And if you look that word up, that means that we don't have a legitimate government. And when the founding fathers wrote this Constitution, they realized that the bankers were trying to pull a fast one on us and to try to take over our governance. And so they put in a safety mechanism, and there's something called Article 5, which says that when 2/3 of the state legislatures request an amendment, that the Congress is required to convene a constitution to consider amendments. And the Congress was supposed to do that back in 1929. They've been in contempt of the American people.
Yeah, good information. While this is playing out, I wanted to show you this here. The Democrat Party, no borders, abolish ICE, socialism now, woke, defund the police, and more. They're going over the waterfalls. We're watching them fall apart, especially when they get exposed on a show that had millions of listeners. Listen to Joe Rogan.
I'm really concerned that people think that's a good idea, and that they think that socialism just hasn't been done correctly. That drives me nuts, because I think a lot of really well-intentioned, really kind and empathetic young people think that that's the way to go. And I do not think they understand the dangers of this ideology, because it always leads to one thing. It leads to a very powerful military government that controls the population. Period. End of discussion. And if you play it out, it is literally the only way they can get people to give up their money.
Yes.
It's the only way they can get them to give up their property. And when you're hearing Mamdani talk about freezing rents and taking bad landlords and then confiscating their property, you're like, this is step one of what's happened in every communist dictatorship throughout history.
Yeah.
This is what happened in North Korea. Give the government the land, and we'll make sure that no one ever has to worry about food. What a great idea.
Yeah, man.
Look how it turned out.
Yep, look how it turned out. Remember, millions of folks catching on to that. Now, head over to Virginia. State Senator Saddam Aslan Salim, Fairfax, has introduced Senate Bill 624, legislation that would define Islamophobia within Virginia's assault and battery laws, while requiring law enforcement to track crimes allegedly motivated by anti-Islam bias. This is from Rich Pinkowski. For years, we're warned that this is one path by which Islam gains political influence in the West. In my view, measures like this move society closer to treating criticism of Islam as something deserving of special legal protection. I believe that raises serious questions and concerns about free speech and religious liberty. I also believe we're seeing a similar pattern elsewhere in Tampa, Florida. State Attorney Susie Lopez, Governor DeSantis appointee, is prosecuting Christians for preaching to Muslims on public property in a case involving alleged disruption of a religious assembly. That prosecution benefits CARE's agenda, the Islamic Republic's agenda. It sends a chilling message to Christians who engage in public evangelism. Christians need to pay attention to what's happening around them. If criticism of one religion receives increasing legal protection while biblical preaching faces criminal prosecution, we should be asking hard questions about the future of free speech and religious liberty in America. How much has to happen before Christians wake up? With all these immigrant issues playing out and Muslims entering other countries, Ireland is now full of immigrants from Somalia.
Yeah, what's the biggest group that's not Irish here?
Welcome to small Somaliland here on the street now.
Yeah? Okay. After stumbling through a portal into Somalia, I found it was not a challenge to find clusters of ethnic minorities chilling everywhere. Pop in here. Where is everyone from? Pakistan. Shout out Pakistan. Bangladesh. Shout out Bangladesh. Okay. You know me. That's good. Yes. How long you been out here? Tell me your story now.
1 year.
1 year?
Yeah.
What do you do for work?
I came from Portugal. I'm a student.
You came from Portugal?
Yeah.
What you'll notice is that many of these third world immigrants used Portugal's weak immigration policy over the last few years as an open door into the rest of the EU, and eventually ended up in countries like Ireland. What drove you to come here? What was your big reason to come here?
Portugal, from Portugal.
So you used Portugal as the entry point to the EU and then ended up here in Ireland?
Yeah.
Smart.
Ireland has indeed been flooded with Somalians, and if you take a look here, it looks like Somalis are the top or near the top nationality for asylum applications for Ireland.
That's right. And so while this is playing out, Eva Vlaardingenbroek, she actually delivered the first 500,000 signatures of the Save Europe Act to the European parliamentary yesterday.
500,000 signatures of the Save Europe Act. We are not here to ask for permission from the European Commission. We will bring the voice of the European people to the Parliament, even if they don't want to hear it. Here we are. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a pile of, anonymized of course, names of European patriots who want remigration and who want it now. This is the voice of the people. These people decide, not them. This is the voice of the people. We are over 535,000, so we're already over half of what the threshold would be for an official European Citizens Initiative. That in less than 2 months. So this is already an amazing success.
What does precisely your initiative?
You want to go and read it?
If you can summarize, please.
Of course.
And then I will read it in full.
With the Save Europe Act, we of course want to save Europe from remigration, from replacement migration, excuse me. And for that, we demand a full and total halt of both legal and illegal non-Western immigration to Europe. And we demand that the European Commission installs a remigration scheme in all of Europe, so we can finally start sending them back.
So she came to Brussels, made sure their voices were heard, whether the European Commission likes it or not. The people want remigration. They want them gone. At the end of this, I think they were shouting something.
Send them back! Send them back!
Send them back. Send them back. Mm-hmm. Dan Scavino posted this video.
Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
So you can hear that music. That is a 24-second video posted. The song is called Fuel by Metallica. DC Lidstone caught onto this. 24-second video. 24 seconds, November 1st, 2017, number 24 on the board. Any person making statements they will not be seeking re-election was put in submission. Guys, we just saw that one while ago. It seems like it's a common theme. Average Joe Patriot, 1776. Transparency brings accountability. Crossfire Hurricane, Crossfire Typhoon. Calm before the storm was just random. Did you think that was just random? Transparency brings accountability. And also you have the fuel in one of the drops that says this isn't a game. Trump himself is speaking to us. I mean, we are the autistic fueled engine the world needs right now. I feel honored to be a part of this. Honored to be a part of this.
You see, down south, we don't deal with all that tomfoolery that y'all dealing with over there in New York City or California or Maine or Minnesota. You know, all you woke states. We don't deal with that. You see, round these parts, we believe in God, guns, and butter. And in that order. God, and his name is Jesus Christ. Let's not be confused. Pretty much all of us are conceal and carry. There will be no entering into every household in America, that part, and catch it. And we love to eat. So we put butter on everything. And I mean everything, that part. And I did not mention it, but let me be very, very clear. God, guns, butter. But also we are very, very common sense and patriotic. See, unlike the Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, we know what a woman is, that part. And there will be American flags flying in everybody's yard, okay? So if you have a problem with that, you may not want to move down south. Yes, the homes are cheaper, but they look just as good as those high homes y'all paying for up north. And on the east and west coast, that part, we're comfortable, classy. All the white boys in the Cajun Navy is our friends, that part. You see, when the tornadoes and hurricanes happen, they come on through. And they don't care what color the hand is that they helping, that part. Our men are not emasculated, at least not around these parts they ain't. And chivalry, sure enough, not dead. And last but not least, we believe in keeping our babies around here, okay? So Allah to your Akbar over there, you will not be entering into every household in America. And all that yelling and screaming and pro-lifers face around these parts don't work. You feel me? Because we hit back, that part. God bless. Welcome to the South.
Audio was a little off on her voice there, but matching. But pretty powerful. I like getting those messages right before we close. Just remember, folks, that common message. You will see more of these folks folks seeking re-election that they're actually not going to do that. They're going to go away. You're going to see more of it occur. And even on the Democrat side, boy, what a beautiful thing to behold in the future.
For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you in your throne boldly, the author and finisher of our faith. Without you, we can do nothing. We face what seemingly seems like an uphill battle to restore our nation and other nations around this earth. But this can't occur unless the right people are in power, unless they do the right things according to the law, and finally establish concrete foundation for our country once again as they get rid of this evil that it's made its way throughout this entire earth. We know that it'll still be here regardless of how much has been removed. Satan will still be prowling around like a roaring lion, thinking, looking for things and people that he wants to devour. We need protection from him. We ask you for that. We ask you for protection over our family, over the decisions that we make, how we speak to others, and more. We certainly need that. Also, we ask that your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We thank you for the daily provisions that you provide us. And we thank you once again for your Son, Jesus Christ, who died for us on the cross, rose again after 3 days, and is alive and well now. We thank you for the Holy Spirit helping us every second of every day. We're bringing this before you in the name of Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your prayers, helping us to be up there on the leaderboard and more. Just a delight to be with you. We are so thankful for each one that listens to us all the way through and supports us and our families and all that's going on. What a tremendous privilege this is to wake up each day knowing our Heavenly Father's guiding all of us in this way. For now, it's LT Semper Fi, with them we know. Signing out.